Harry Potter film series. Harry Potter is a British-American film series based on the Harry Potter novels by author J.K. Rowling. The series is distributed by Warner Brothers and consists of 8 fantasy films, beginning with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and culminating with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. A spin-off prequel series will consist of 5 films, starting with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The Fantastic Beasts films mark the beginning of a shared media franchise known as J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World. The series was mainly produced by David Heyman and stars Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson as the 3 leading characters: Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. 4 directors worked on the series: Chris Columbus, Alfonso Cuarón, Mike Newell, and David Yates. The screenplays were written by Steve Kloves, with the exception of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which was written by Michael Goldenberg. Production took over 10 years to complete, with the main story arc following Harry Potter's quest to overcome his arch-enemy Lord Voldemort. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the 7th and final novel in the series, was adapted into 2 feature-length parts. Part 1 was released in November 2010, and Part 2 was released in July 2011. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is the only film in the series not among the 50 highest-grossing films of all time, with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, the highest-grossing film in the series and one of 30 films to gross over $1 billion, ranking at number 8. Without inflation adjustment, it is the second highest-grossing film series with $8.5 billion in worldwide receipts. Origins. Late in 1997, film producer David Heyman's London offices received a copy of the first book in what would become Rowling's series of 7 Harry Potter novels. The book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was relegated to a low-priority bookshelf, where it was discovered by a secretary who read it and gave it to Heyman with a positive review. Consequently, Heyman, who had originally disliked the rubbish title, read the book himself. Highly impressed by Rowling's work, he began the process that led to one of the most successful cinematic franchises of all time. Heyman's enthusiasm led to Rowling's 1999 sale of the film rights for the first 4 Harry Potter books to Warner Brothers for a reported £1 million. A demand Rowling made was that the principal cast be kept strictly British, allowing nevertheless for the inclusion of many Irish actors, such as Richard Harris as Dumbledore, and for casting of French and Eastern European actors in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, where characters from the book are specified as such. Rowling was hesitant to sell the rights, because she didn't want to give them control over the rest of the story, by selling the rights to the characters, which would have enabled Warner Brothers to make non-author-written sequels. Although Steven Spielberg initially negotiated to direct the first film, he declined the offer. Spielberg wanted the adaptation to be an animated film, with American actor Haley Joel Osment providing Harry Potter's voice. Spielberg contended that, in his opinion, there was every expectation of profit in making the film. He claims that making money would have been like shooting ducks in a barrel. It's just a slam dunk. It's just like withdrawing $1 billion and putting it into your personal bank accounts. There's no challenge. In the rubbish bin section of her website, Rowling maintains that she had no role in choosing directors for the films, writing, "Anyone who thinks I could have vetoed him, Spielberg needs their quick quotes quill serviced." After Spielberg left, conversations began with other directors, including Chris Columbus, Jonathan Demme, Terry Gilliam, Mike Newell, Alan Parker, Wolfgang Peterson, Rob Reiner, Tim Robbins, Brad Silberling, and Peter Weir. Peterson and Reiner both pulled out of the running in March 2000. It was then narrowed down to Columbus, Gilliam, Parker, and Silberling. Rowling's first choice was Terry Gilliam. However, on 28 March 2000, Columbus was appointed as director of the film, with Warner Brothers citing his work on other family films such as Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire as influences for their decision. Steve Kloves was selected to write the screenplay for the first film. He described adapting the book as tough since it did not lend itself to adaptation as well as the next two books. Kloves was sent a raft of synopses of books proposed as film adaptations, with Harry Potter being the only one that jumped out at him. He went out and bought the book, becoming an instant fan. When speaking to Warner Brothers, he stated that the film had to be British and true to the characters. David Heyman was confirmed to produce the film. Rowling received a large amount of creative control for the film, an arrangement that Columbus did not mind. Warner Brothers had initially planned to release the first film over the 4th of July 2001 weekend, making for such a short production window that several of the originally proposed directors had withdrawn themselves from contention. Eventually, due to time constraints, the date was put back to the 16th of November 2001. Casting the roles of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Emma Watson and Rupert Grint at the world premiere of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2 in Trafalgar Square, London on 7 July 2011. In 2000, after a 7-month search, lead actor Daniel Radcliffe was discovered by producer David Heyman and writer Steve Kloves seated just behind them in a theater. In Heyman's own words, "There sitting behind me was this boy with these big blue eyes. It was Dan Radcliffe. I remember my first impressions. He was curious and funny and so energetic. There was real generosity too, and sweetness. But at the same time he was really voracious, and with hunger for knowledge, of whatever kind." Radcliffe had already established himself as an actor in the 1999 BBC television production of David Copperfield, in which he played the title role's childhood years. Heyman persuaded Radcliffe's parents to allow him to audition for the part of Harry Potter, which involved Radcliffe being filmed. Rowling was enthusiastic after viewing Radcliffe's film test, saying she didn't think there was a better choice for the part of Harry Potter. Also in 2000, the then unknown British actors Emma Watson and Rupert Grint were selected from thousands of auditioning children to play the roles of Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, respectively. Their only previous acting experience was in school plays. Grint was 11 years old, and Watson 10 at the time they were cast. Los Angeles Times writer Jeff Boucher, who conducted the above-mentioned interview with Heyman, added that the casting of the three major roles is especially impressive in hindsight. The trio's selection was arguably one of the best show business decisions over the past decade. They have shown admirable grace and steadiness in the face of teen superstardom. Production. Filming of the series began at Leavesden Studios, Hertfordshire, England, in September 2000, and ended in December 2010, with post-production on the final film lasting until summer 2011. Leavesden Studios was the main base for filming Harry Potter, and it opened to the public as a studio tour in 2012, where much of the film series was shot. Harry Potter was also filmed in other areas, including Pinewood Studios. David Heyman produced all the films in the series with his production company Heyday Films, while David Barron joined the series as an executive producer on Chamber of Secrets and Goblet of Fire. Barron was later appointed producer on the last 4 films. Chris Columbus was an executive producer on the first 2 films alongside Mark Radcliffe and Michael Barnathan, but he became a producer on the third film alongside Heyman and Radcliffe. Other executive producers include Tanya Segachian and Lionel Wigram. J.K. Rowling, author of the series, was asked to become a producer on Goblet of Fire, but declined. She subsequently accepted the role on the two-part Deathly Hallows. Heyday Films and Columbus's company 1492 Pictures collaborated with Duncan Henderson Productions in 2001. Miracle Productions in 2002, and P of A Productions in 2004. Even though Prisoner of Azkaban was the final film produced by 1492 Pictures, Heyday Films continued with the franchise and collaborated with Pathé Lex IV Productions in 2005. The sixth film in the series, Half-Blood Prince, was the most expensive film to produce. Warner Brothers split the seventh and final novel in the series, Deathly Hallows, into two cinematic parts. The two parts were filmed back-to-back from early 2009 to summer 2010, with the completion of reshoots taking place on the 21st of December 2010. This marked the end of filming Harry Potter. Heyman stated that Deathly Hallows was shot as one film, but released in two feature-length parts. Tim Burke, the visual effects supervisor of the series, said of the production on Harry Potter, "It was this huge family. I think there were over 700 people working at Leavesden, an industry in itself." David Heyman said, "When the first film opened, no way did I think we'd make 8 films. That didn't seem feasible until after we'd done the fourth. Nisha Party, the production consultant on the first film, said that Heyman made the first film very much the way he felt the studio Warner Brothers wanted to make it. After the film's success, Heyman was given more freedom. One of the aims of the filmmakers from the beginning of production was to develop the maturity of the films." Chris Columbus stated, "We realized that these movies would get progressively darker. Again, we didn't know how dark, but we realized that as the kids get older, the movies get a little edgier and darker." This transpired with the succeeding 3 directors who would work on the series in the following years, with the films beginning to deal with issues such as death, betrayal, prejudice, and political corruption as the series developed narratively and thematically. Directors. After Chris Columbus had finished working on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, he was hired to direct the second film, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The production started within a week after the release of the first film. Columbus was set to direct all entries in the series, but he did not want to return for the third film, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, claiming he was burned out. He moved to the position of producer, while Alfonso Cuarón was approached for the role of director. He was initially nervous about directing the installment since he had not read any of the books or seen the films. After reading the series, he changed his mind and signed on to direct since he had immediately connected to the story, directed 4 of the films in the series, including the 2-part finale Deathly Hallows. Because Cuarón decided not to direct the 4th installment, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, a new director had to be selected. Mike Newell was chosen to direct the film, but he declined to direct the next film, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which was given to David Yates, who also directed Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, becoming the only director to helm more than one film since Chris Columbus. Chris Columbus said his vision of the first 2 films was of a golden storybook, an old-fashioned look, while Alfonso Cuarón changed the visual tone of the series, desaturated the color palette, and expanded the landscape around Hogwarts. Mike Newell decided to direct the 4th film as a paranoid thriller, while David Yates wanted to bring a sense of jeopardy and character to the world. Cuarón, Newell, and Yates have said that their challenge was striking a balance between making the films according to their individual vision, while working within a cinematic world already established by Columbus. David Heyman commented on the generosity of the directors by revealing that Chris spent time with Alfonso, Alfonso spent time with Mike, and Mike spent time with David, showing him an early cut of the film, talking through what it means to be a director, and how they went about making the films. David Heyman also said, "I suppose Chris Columbus was the most conservative choice from the studio's point of view, but he expressed real passion." Producer Tanya Sagachian said they were more adventurous in choosing a director for the third film and went straight to Alfonso Cuarón. Mike Newell became the first British director of the series. When he was chosen for the fourth film, Newell was considered to direct the first film before he dropped out. David Yates directed the final films after David Heyman thought him capable of handling the edgy, emotional, and political material of the later novels. All the directors have been supportive of each other. Chris Columbus praised the character development in the films, while Alfonso Cuarón admired the quiet poetry of David Yates' films. Mike Newell noted that each director had a different heroism, and David Yates views the first four films respectfully and enjoys them. Daniel Radcliffe said Yates took the charm of the films that Chris made, and the visual flair of everything that Alfonso did, and the thoroughly British bombastic nature of the film directed by Mike Newell, and added his own sense of realism. Scripts. Steve Kloves wrote the screenplays for all but the fifth film, which was penned by Michael Goldenberg. Kloves had direct assistance from J.K. Rowling, though she allowed him what he described as tremendous elbow room. Rowling asked Kloves to remain faithful to the spirit of the books, thus the plot and tone of each film and its corresponding book are virtually the same, albeit with some changes and omissions for purposes of cinematic style, time, and budget constraints. Michael Goldenberg also received input from Rowling during his adaptation of the fifth novel. Goldenberg was originally considered to adapt the first novel before the studio chose Kloves. It is the main setting in the series. The castle features in every novel and screen adaptation. In a 2010 interview, David Heyman briefly explained the book-to-film transition. He commented on Rowling's involvement in the series, stating that she understood that books and films are different and was the best support a producer could have. Rowling had overall approval on the scripts, which were viewed and discussed by the director and the producers. Heyman also said that Kloves was the key voice in the process of adapting the novels, and that certain aspects from the books needed to have been excluded from the scripts due to the filmmaker's decision to keep the main focus on Harry's journey as a character, which would ultimately give the films a defined structure. Heyman mentioned that some fans don't necessarily understand the adaptation process, and that the filmmakers would have loved to have everything from the books in the films, but noted that it was not possible since they had neither time nor cinematic structure to do so. He finished by saying that adapting a novel to the screen is a really considered process. Because the films were being made as the novels were being published, the filmmakers had no idea of the story's outcome until the release of the final novel in 2007. Kloves spoke of his relationship with Rowling when adapting the novels by saying, "The thing is about Jo, which is remarkable for someone who had no experience with the filmmaking process, was her intuition. We had a conversation the very first day I met her where she said, 'I know the movies can't be the books, because I know what's coming. And it's impossible to fully dramatize on screen what I'm going to write. But I just ask you to be true to the characters, that's all I care about,'" Kloves also said. I don't know what compelled me to say this to Rowling, but I said, "I've just got to warn you, my favorite character is not Harry. My favorite character is Hermione, and I think for some weird reason, from that moment on, she sort of trusted me." Set design. In Oxford, England, the inspiration for the studio film set of The Great Hall of Hogwarts. The production designer for all 8 films is Stuart Craig. Assisted by Stephanie McMillan, Craig has created iconic set pieces including the Ministry of Magic, the Chamber of Secrets, Malfoy Manor, and the layout for the CGI Horcrux Cave. Because the novels were being published as the films were being made, Craig was required to rebuild some sets for future films and alter the design of Hogwarts. He said, "In the early days, every time you saw the exterior of Hogwarts, it was a physical miniature, which was made by craftsmen and occupied a large sound stage. We ended up with a profile of how Hogwarts looked, a skyline that actually I didn't design. And it wasn't always satisfactory, and as all the novels got written and movies got made, there were new requirements for buildings. The astronomy tower definitely wasn't there originally, and so we were able to add that substantial piece. And in the last film, we needed an arena for the Battle for Hogwarts. The big courtyard outside doubled in size. And if you look at the first movie, it wasn't there at all. There were quite some liberties taken with the continuity of Hogwarts. In the last film, Craig used a digital model instead of a miniature to embrace the latest technology on the method of creating the sets. Craig said he often started by sketching ideas onto a blank sheet of paper. Stephanie McMillan also said that each film always had plenty of new challenges, citing the changes in visual style between directors and cinematographers as an example, along with the developing story in the novels. Due to J.K. Rowling's descriptions of various settings in the novels, Craig noted his responsibility was to place it together. Craig commented on his experience working in the studio environment. "I'm the production designer, but on a big movie like Harry Potter I may be responsible for 30 to 35 people. From the supervising art director, and a team of art directors and assistants, to draftsmen and junior draftsmen, and then on to model makers, sculptors and scenic artists." He said, 10 years ago, all the Harry Potter drawings were done in pencil. I would take my roughs and plans and sections and give them to a professional architectural illustrator, who would create concept art using pencil and color wash on watercolor paper. He said the process changed slightly throughout the years, due to what he called the digital revolution of making films. When filming of the series was completed, some of Craig's sets had to be rebuilt or transported for them to be displayed at the Warner Brothers studio tour. Cinematography. 6 directors of photography worked on the series: John Seale on the first film, Roger Pratt on the second and fourth, Michael Saracen on the third, Slora Miridziak on the fifth, Bruno Del Bonal on the sixth, and Eduardo Serra on the seventh and eighth. Del Bonal was considered to return for both parts of Deathly Hallows, but he declined, stating that he was scared of repeating himself. Del Bonal's cinematography in Half-Blood Prince gained the series its only Academy Award nomination for Best Cinematography. As the series progressed, each cinematographer faced the challenge of shooting and lighting older sets in unique and different ways. Chris Columbus said the series' vivid coloring decreased as each film was made. Michael Saracen commented on the change of visual style from the first 2 films to Prisoner of Azkaban. The lighting is moodier, with more shadowing and cross-lighting. Saracen and Alfonso Cuarón moved away from the strongly colored and brightly lit cinematography of the first 2 films, with dimmer lighting and a more muted color palette being utilized for the succeeding 5 films. After comparing a range of digital cameras with 35mm film, Bruno Del Bonel decided to shoot the sixth movie, Half-Blood Prince, on film rather than the increasingly popular digital format. This decision was kept for the two-part Deathly Hallows with Eduardo Serra, who said that he preferred to work with film, because it was more technically accurate and dependable. Because the majority of Deathly Hallows takes place in various settings away from Hogwarts, David Yates wanted to shake things up by using different photographic techniques such as using handheld cameras and very wide camera lenses. Eduardo Serra said, "Sometimes we are combining elements shot by the main unit, a second unit, and the visual effects unit. You have to know what is being captured, colors, contrast, etc., with mathematical precision." He noted that with Stuart Craig's amazing sets and the story, the filmmakers could not stray too far from the look of the previous Harry Potter films. Music. Scored the first three films and received Academy Award nominations for the first and third films. The Harry Potter series has had four composers. John Williams scored the first three films, Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, and Prisoner of Azkaban. However, the second entry was adapted and conducted by William Ross due to Williams' conflicting commitments. Williams also created Hedwig's theme, which is used in every film in the series. After Williams left the series to pursue other projects, Patrick Doyle scored the fourth entry, Goblet of Fire, which was directed by Mike Newell, with whom Doyle had worked previously. In 2006, Nicholas Hooper started work on the score to Order of the Phoenix by reuniting with director David Yates. Hooper also composed the soundtrack to Half-Blood Prince, but decided not to return for the final films. In January 2010, Alexandra Desplat was confirmed to compose the score for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. The film's orchestration started in the summer with Conrad Pope, the orchestrator on the first three Harry Potter films, collaborating with Desplat. Pope commented that the music reminds one of the old days. Desplat returned to score Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2 in 2011. Director David Yates stated that he wanted John Williams to return to the series for the final installment, but their schedules did not align due to the urgent demand for a rough cut of the film. The final recording sessions of Harry Potter took place on the 27th of May 2011 at Abbey Road Studios with the London Symphony Orchestra, orchestrator Conrad Pope, and composer Alexander Desplat. Doyle, Hooper, and Desplat introduced their own personal themes to their respective soundtracks, while keeping a few of John Williams' themes. Visual effects. There have been many visual effects companies to work on the Harry Potter series. Some of these include Rising Sun Pictures, Double Negative, Cinesite, Framestore, and Industrial Light and Magic. The latter three have worked on all the films in the series, while Double Negative and Rising Sun Pictures began their commitments with Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire, respectively. Framestore contributed by developing many memorable creatures and sequences to the series. Cinesite was involved in producing both miniature and digital effects for the films. Producer David Barron said that Harry Potter created the UK effects industry as we know it. On the first film, all the complicated visual effects were done on the US West Coast. But on the second, we took a leap of faith and gave much of what would normally be given to Californian vendors to UK ones. They came up trumps. Tim Burke, the visual effects supervisor, said many studios are bringing their work to UK effects companies. Every facility is fully booked, and that wasn't the case before Harry Potter. That's really significant. Final filming. On 12 June 2010, filming of the Deathly Hallows, Part 1 and Deathly Hallows, Part 2 was completed, with actor Warwick Davis stating on his Twitter account, "The end of an era. Today is officially the last day of principal photography on Harry Potter ever. I feel honored to be here as the director shouts, cut for the very last time. Farewell Harry and Hogwarts, it's been magic." However, reshoots of the epilogue scene were confirmed to begin in the winter of 2010. The filming was completed on 21 December 2010, marking the official closure of filming the Harry Potter franchise. Exactly 4 years earlier on that day, author J.K. Rowling's official website revealed the title of the final novel in the series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Harry Potter is an orphan boy brought up by his unkind aunt and uncle. At the age of 11, half-giant Rubeus Hagrid informs him that he is actually a wizard, and that his parents were murdered by an evil wizard named Lord Voldemort. Voldemort also attempted to kill 1-year-old Harry on the same night, but his killing curse mysteriously rebounded and reduced him to a weak and helpless form. Harry became extremely famous in the wizarding world as a result. Harry begins his first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and learns about magic. During the year, Harry and his friends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger become entangled in the mystery of the Philosopher's Stone, which is being kept within the school. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Harry, Ron, and Hermione return to Hogwarts for their second year, which proves to be more challenging than the last. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened, leaving students and ghosts petrified by an unleashed monster. Harry must face up to claims that he is the heir of Salazar Slytherin, learn that he can speak Parseltongue, and also discover the properties of a mysterious diary, only to find himself trapped within the Chamber of Secrets itself. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry Potter's third year sees the boy wizard, along with his friends, attending Hogwarts School once again. Professor R.J. Lupin joins the staff as defense against the dark arts teacher, while convicted murderer Sirius Black escapes from Azkaban prison. The Ministry of Magic entrusts the Dementors of Azkaban to guard Hogwarts from Black. Harry learns more about his past and his connection with the escaped prisoner. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. During Harry's fourth year, Hogwarts plays host to a legendary event, the Triwizard Tournament. 3 European schools participate in the tournament, with 3 champions representing each school in the deadly tasks. The Goblet of Fire chooses Fleur Delacour, Victor Krum, and Cedric Diggory to compete against each other. However, curiously, Harry's name is also produced from the goblet, thus making him a 4th champion, which results in a terrifying encounter with the reborn Lord Voldemort. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Harry's 5th year begins with him being attacked by Dementors in Little Whinging. Later, he finds out that the Ministry of Magic is in denial of Lord Voldemort's return. Harry is also beset by disturbing and realistic nightmares, while Professor Umbridge, a representative of Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge, is the new defense against the dark arts teacher. Harry becomes aware that Voldemort is after a prophecy which reveals neither can live while the other survives. The rebellion involving the students of Hogwarts' secret organization Order of the Phoenix, the Ministry of Magic, and the Death Eaters begins. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. In Harry's sixth year at Hogwarts, Lord Voldemort and his Death Eaters are increasing their terror upon the Wizarding and Muggle worlds. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore persuades his old friend Horace Slughorn to return to Hogwarts as a professor as there is a vacancy to fill. There is a more important reason, however, for Slughorn's return. While in a potions lesson, Harry takes possession of a strangely annotated school textbook, inscribed, "This is the property of the Half-Blood Prince." Draco Malfoy struggles to carry out a deed presented to him by Voldemort. Meanwhile, Dumbledore and Harry secretly work together to discover the method on how to destroy the Dark Lord once and for all. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. After unexpected events at the end of the previous year, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are entrusted with a quest to find and destroy Lord Voldemort's secret to immortality, the Horcruxes. It is supposed to be their final year at Hogwarts, but the collapse of the Ministry of Magic and Voldemort's rise to power prevents them from attending. The trio undergo a long journey with many obstacles in their path, including Death Eaters, Snatchers, the mysterious Deathly Hallows, and Harry's connection with the Dark Lord's mind becoming ever stronger. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. After destroying one Horcrux and discovering the significance of the three Deathly Hallows, Harry, Ron, and Hermione continue to seek the other Horcruxes in an attempt to destroy Voldemort, who has now obtained the powerful Elder Wand. The Dark Lord discovers Harry's hunt for Horcruxes and launches an attack on Hogwarts School, where the trio return for one last stand against the dark forces that threaten the Wizarding and Muggle worlds. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. On the 12th of September 2013, Warner Brothers announced that J.K. Rowling was writing a script based on her book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and the adventures of its fictional author Newt Scamander, set 70 years before the adventures of Harry Potter. The film would mark Rowling's screenwriting debut, and is planned as the first movie in a new series. According to Rowling, after Warner Brothers came suggesting an adaptation, she wrote a rough draft of the script in 12 days. She said, "It wasn't a great draft, but it did show the shape of how it might look. So that is how it all started." On the 29th of March 2014, The New York Times reported that a trilogy is scheduled and the film will begin in New York. On the 13th of May 2014, Warner Brothers announced that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them would be released on the 18th of November 2016. In November 2016, it was announced that Johnny Depp would appear in the film as Gellert Grindelwald. Future. On the 14th of October 2016, J.K. Rowling announced that Fantastic Beasts will be a 5-film series. In November 2016, it was announced that Johnny Depp would have a larger role, starring in the as-of-yet unnamed sequel to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Yates and Rowling are contracted to return as director and screenwriter and co-producer, respectively. Later that same month, it was also announced that Albus Dumbledore would be appearing in the future installments, albeit with a younger actor, for the prequel film series. In April 2017, it was confirmed that Jude Law had been cast for the role. Release. The rights for the first 4 novels in the series were sold to Warner Brothers for £1 million by J.K. Rowling. After the release of the 4th book in July 2000, the first film, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was released on 16 November 2001. In its opening weekend, the film grossed $90 million in the United States alone, which set a record opening worldwide. The succeeding 3 motion picture adaptations followed suit in financial success, while garnering positive reviews from fans and critics. The 5th film, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, was released by Warner Bros. On the 11th of July 2007 in English-speaking countries, except for the UK and Ireland, which released the movie on the 12th of July. The 6th, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, was released on the 15th of July 2009 to critical acclaim, and finished its theatrical run ranked as the number 2 grossing film of 2009 on the worldwide charts. The final novel, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, was split into 2 cinematic parts. Part 1 was released on the 19th of November 2010, and Part 2, the conclusion to both the final film and the series, was released on the 15th of July 2011. Part 1 was originally scheduled to be released in 3D and 2D, but due to a delay in the 3D conversion process, Warner Bros. Released the film only in 2D and IMAX cinemas. However, Part 2 was released in 2D and 3D cinemas as originally planned. The television broadcast rights for the series in the United States are currently held by Disney ABC Domestic Television, which typically airs the films on the Freeform network. Disney's contract is expected to end in June 2018, after which NBC Universal will take control of the rights, after their deal with Warner Bros. Was made in August 2016. The film series has accrued nearly 1.3 billion viewings since the television debut, the highest-watched franchise in television broadcast history. Critical response. All the films have been a success financially and critically, making the franchise one of the major Hollywood tentpoles, akin to James Bond, Star Wars, Indiana Jones and Pirates of the Caribbean. The series is noted by audiences for growing visually darker and more mature as each film was released. However, opinions of the films generally divide book fans, with some preferring the more faithful approach of the first 2 films and others preferring the more stylized, character-driven approach of the later films. Some also feel the series has a disjointed feel due to the changes in directors, as well as Michael Gambon's interpretation of Albus Dumbledore differing from that of Richard Harris. Author J.K. Rowling has been constantly supportive of the films, and evaluated Deathly Hallows as her favorite one in the series. She wrote on her website, "Of the changes in the book-to-film transition, it is simply impossible to incorporate every one of my storylines into a film that has to be kept under 4 hours long. Obviously films have restrictions, novels do not have constraints of time and budget. I can create dazzling effects relying on nothing but the interaction of my own and my readers' imaginations." Accolades. At the 64th British Academy Film Awards in February 2011, J.K. Rowling, David Heyman, David Barron, David Yates, Alfonso Cuarón, Mike Newell, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson collected the Michael Balcon Award for Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema for the series. In addition, the American Film Institute recognized the entire series with a special award at the American Film Institute Awards in 2011. Special awards are given to outstanding achievements in the moving image that do not fit into AFI's criteria for the other honorees. In its press release, the Institute referred to the films as a landmark series, 8 films that earned the trust of a generation who wished for the beloved books of J.K. Rowling to come to life on the silver screen. The collective wizardry of an epic ensemble gave us the gift of growing older with Harry, Ron, and Hermione as the magic of Hogwarts sprung from the films and into the hearts and minds of Muggles around the world. Harry Potter was also recognized by the BAFTA Los Angeles Britannia Awards with David Yates winning the Britannia Award for Artistic Excellence in Directing for his 4 Harry Potter films. 7 of the 9 films were nominated for a total of 14 Academy Awards. However, the series did not win any until Fantastic Beasts in 2017. Some critics, fans, and general audiences have expressed disappointment that the series has not captured any Oscars for its achievements. However, detractors have pointed that certain films in the series have had uneven reviews. In contrast to the 3 films of The Lord of the Rings, which were all critically acclaimed. This has been partially attributed to the Harry Potter franchise going through several directors with their own styles, something that the Academy reportedly does not favor. In contrast to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was filmed in one massive undertaking by the same director, writer, and producer. Although not successful at the Oscars, the Harry Potter series has gained success in many other award ceremonies, including the annual Saturn Awards and Art Directors Guild Awards. The series has also gained a total of 24 nominations at the British Academy Film Awards presented at the annual BAFTAs, winning several, and 5 nominations at the Grammy Awards, at the Hand, Foot, and Wand ceremony, Hollywood Walk of Fame. July 2007. Philosopher's Stone achieved 7 BAFTA Award nominations, including Best British Film and Best Supporting Actor for Robbie Coltrane. The film was also nominated for 8 Saturn Awards, and 1 for its costumes design. It was also nominated at the Art Directors Guild Awards for its production design, and received the Broadcast Film Critics Award for Best Live-Action Family Film, along with gaining 2 other nominations. Chamber of Secrets won the award for Best Live-Action Family Film in the Phoenix Film Critics Society. It was nominated for 7 Saturn Awards, including Best Director and Best Fantasy Film. The film was nominated for 4 BAFTA Awards and a Grammy Award for John Williams' score. Prisoner of Azkaban won an Audience Award, as well as Best Feature Film, at the BAFTA Awards. The film also won a BMI Film Music Award along with being nominated at the Grammy Awards, Visual Effects Society Awards, and the Amanda Awards. Goblet of Fire won a BAFTA Award for Best Production Design as well as being nominated at the Saturn Awards, Critics' Choice Awards, and the Visual Effects Society Awards. Order of the Phoenix picked up 3 awards at the inaugural ITV National Movie Awards. At the Empire Awards, David Yates won Best Director. Composer Nicholas Hooper received a nomination for a World Soundtrack Discovery Award. The film was nominated at the BAFTA Awards, but did not win for Best Production Design or Best Special Visual Effects. Half-Blood Prince was nominated for BAFTA Awards in Production Design and Visual Effects, and it was in the long list for several other categories, including Best Supporting Actor for Alan Rickman, amongst other nominations and wins. The film also achieved Best Family Movie at the National Movie Awards as well as Best Live-Action Family Film at the Phoenix Film Critics Society Awards, along with being nominated for Best Motion Picture at the Satellite Awards. Deathly Hallows Part 1 gained 2 nominations at the BAFTA Awards for Best Makeup and Hair and Best Visual Effects, along with receiving nominations for the same categories at the Broadcast Film Critics Association Awards. Eduardo Serra Cinematography and Stuart Craig's Production Design were also nominated in various award ceremonies, and David Yates attained his second win at the Empire Awards, this time for Best Fantasy Film. He also obtained another Best Director nomination at the annual Saturn Awards, which also saw the film gain a Best Fantasy Film nomination. Deathly Hallows Part 2 was released to critical acclaim, gaining a mix of audience awards. Part 2 of Deathly Hallows was also recognized at the Saturn Awards as well as the BAFTA Awards, where the film achieved a win for Best Special Visual Effects. Box office performance. The Harry Potter film franchise is the second highest-grossing film franchise of all time, behind only the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, with the 8 films released grossing over $7.7 billion worldwide. Without adjusting for inflation, this is higher than the first 22 James Bond films and the 6 films in the Star Wars franchise. Chris Columbus' Philosopher's Stone became the highest-grossing Harry Potter film worldwide upon completing its theatrical run in 2002. But it was eventually topped by David Yates' Deathly Hallows, Part 2. While Alfonso Cuarón's Prisoner of Azkaban grossed the least. 6 films in the Harry Potter franchise: Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Parts 1 and 2 have to date grossed around $216 million in IMAX theaters worldwide. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.